That was a concern at the time, when I was on the executive committee, the 203 committee. So the grant, is that going to cover all of the costs of the equipment in the software?
No, it's not going to cover all of it. Rather to the mayor ended up helping out us a little bit.
So do you know how much the total cost is yet?
How much the total
Do you know how much
cost?
the total cost
I
is
don't
yet?
have it right. I don't have it on me right now. Get it right.
Yeah,
The total cost of all of it being implemented, or the total cost of it purchased?
all of it, because you have a $100,000 grant, and I guess I would want to know if that grant's going to cover all the costs.
I think the total cost of the equipment for the years that we have it is covered by the grant. And then there was an additional storage cost, and I don't go by memory, but again, as I said, give us some time, we can actually give you a more comprehensive report on this, counselors. But I believe a portion of that was covered out of the contingency funding last year to cover cloud storage. It's my recollection, but we have to go back and look.
Right, so I would like to know some specific data when that's available to us. There was something else I was going to ask you about this thing. Oh, what's the company that's making the equipment?
It's Motorola.
Motorola? And and are they the same company that's going to be the, providing the software, or is that a different company, or how does that work?
It's all through Motorola.
It's all through the same one? Well, I look forward to seeing the whole program when you have it ready to share with council. I do have another question. So I'm making my own notes. And again, I don't expect you to have this answer, but it is something that I would like to know when you have it all prepared. How much training, how many training hours will have to go into getting your officers ready for implementation? Yeah, that's what I mean. I know you don't have it now, but as part of when you are ready to unveil the policy, the process, the cost, I'd like to know. And is there ongoing training with something like that? Do you know?
Is there ongoing?
Ongoing training? Like, would you need to have, ongoing training?
Like a service yearly?
Yeah, something like that.
If you change over the cameras, we have to do that. New officers coming on, you have to training with them, they want. They would have to go through the original training hours.
Okay.
Should probably would be updates that people would have to be trained on as they come about. The camera system would have upgrades, changes that they might have to be trained on.
Okay. Are we able to ask PD questions since we have?
Based on the reports that they provided, or just in general?
I just have a couple of, I have a follow-up question, and then I have a different question. It's not in the report, but it's just a quick step-in question.
Okay.
So the last time that we had PD reports, and we talked about the vending machines that were possibly available, and I know they're available.
Army duct machines.
Yes, and you had said that our city is too big for these vending machines?
So the Alliance for Positive Health explained it as the machines originally were a pilot program throughout the state. They were meant more for rural areas, outside the bigger cities. And the reason for that being was that they couldn't get out to restock them to get to people that needed these test strips or Narcan. So they were out in those areas. In the city, they're based here. So if people in the city needed stuff, then they would go to them personally. It was a lot quicker, a lot easier.
Oh, the Alliance for Mental Health would get to them. Is that
Yes.
what you mean?
Yes. It's all to the Alliance.
Oh, I see. But if we wanted to invest in having those vending machines here in the city, is that something that we
If
could
we wanted
pursue?
to purchase them ourselves,
Or find a way to pursue a grant that would provide those here? Is that something that's possible?
I guess maybe I haven't looked into that, it's a grant, and from what I understand, it was a grant between them and the health department, actually public health and health.
So are there any in Clinton County then? Do you know?
I know one in Saranac Lake.
Oh, Saranac Lake isn't Clinton County though. That's Franklin County.
I don't believe there's one. I don't know if there's one in Clinton County. I don't know one in Clinton County,
You
but
don't
the
know?
closest one I know is Saranac Lake.
And I have a staffing question. How many lieutenants do we have in the department right now? I know Jared told me that aside from the
Lieutenant Hahn and Lieutenant Trump.
lieutenant. That was just a quick question.
Hey, John, are you out there?
They are.
I had some questions about the footbridge. So I'm just trying to understand the project. It sounds to me like we're going to need a bigger capacity in our a pipe. You're going to have to put like a bigger pipe. Is that what you're talking about?
Somehow we need to increase the hydraulic capacity across the river at that location. Could be a bigger pipe, it could be a second pipe, it could be a small pump station. Multiple ways, at least two ways to get across. One is to drill under the river, another is to try to hang a new pipe or a force main on the existing bridge. So one of the options we're looking at is hanging something on the existing bridge, and we need to make sure that whatever is installed there can in fact, the bridge can in fact hold that load. Right now, there's the pipe that runs across the river is suspended beneath the bridge. It's an old steel pipe that we put a structural liner in 8 or 10 years ago, so it's in pretty good shape, but because it's hanging beneath the bridge, it does get threatened by the ice jams coming down over the years, and there was one time within the last probably 7 or 8 years where the ice actually hit that pipe. Didn't damage it, didn't take it off, but we need to be prepared for that event. So having a second pipe on top or a little force main will help prevent or help protect against ice. And but the big issue is we've been doing sewer improvements over the years, taking more and more wastewater and getting it to that point so it wasn't overflowing other places. And now the combined sewer overflows at that location are more frequent than we're allowed, so we want to reduce the frequency and the volume of those overflows.
So then one possibility would be to have a wider line, like a plastic pipe that would weigh less, and you could make it bigger and have more capacity in it. That pipe must be heavy then.
That is one way of doing it. I don't know that it's going to end up being the preferred way. The pipe that's there now works, but we need more capacity, so it's probably less expensive to put another pipe that's the same size or a little smaller even across if we can get the grades to work out. Or again, just having a real small pipe that we pump into to get more flow across there. We're going to make sure it can carry the load of that additional pipe.
I almost wondered that when I walked across that. You know,
You feel
that
like
pipe-
that swaying?
that pipe must be heavy. I would guess.
Yeah, and it's heavier than it used to be because, originally it was steel and now it's got a structural liner inside. So one of the things this study's going to do is to make sure the hangers that are there are still in decent shape and sufficient enough to carry the existing load. Make sure we don't have a problem with that. But then the question is going to be, all right, if we put in a bigger pipe, can it carry more load? The bridge in particular, the whole structure of the bridge.
Well, why don't we put it on that bridge? Why don't we put it on
Put on a railroad.
trestle that's next to it?
working with the railroads is real,
Thought grant.
real difficult, yeah.
Okay. I assume that's what the answer is.
Okay, so so basically this is, we're just in the preliminary stages of figuring out what we can and can't do.
Right. And we did get a grant from DEC, almost $1.9 million for its construction. Again, the original thought was drilling under the river, but those costs started coming back, even the preliminary estimates were coming back really high. There's a number of locations in the river where there's actually pipes under the river. Start looking at those costs, thinking, all right, let's take a closer look at this bridge, the bridge is over, it seems to be in good shape, but we want to.
Yeah, I do remember, I don't remember hitting the pipe, but I remember being close a few years ago. It never gets cold in the winter.
Yeah, right.
Well, I guess that brings us back to getting rid of that dam, because that's where a lot of that waste comes from.
What's that?
That's where a lot of that waste used to come from, the old mill
Talking about
dam.
the Imperial Dam?
Dam, yeah. Yeah, well, that's become quite shallow there. Sediment all is backed up behind it. But anyway, that's not for today. But I can remember when I was younger, fishing walleye south of the river, there wasn't all that sediment down there that there is now. Now there's really a lot of sediment nowadays. But things change with time, right?
Yeah, I was,
Thanks, John.
Welcome.
I explained
Any
that
other questions?
very well.
Mayor, why was 7.66 withdrawn?
There were concerns about how, and Dean brought this to my attention, there were some concerns about how the public hearing was advertised. So rather than get into a fight over what we would, I don't know, maybe would be considered minor concerns over how the advertisement went out, we're withdrawing the item. We're gonna re-advertise for a public hearing, have another public hearing, and then put the item back.
All right, so we're still having the public hearing tonight and then put on the second.
Yeah,
Okay.
the notion is if nobody is going to arrive for the public hearing, we could potentially withdraw the public hearing. But, again, why I go through that hoop right now. So we'll just go along with the public hearing. Doesn't hurt anything. We'll advertise for a new public hearing. Will we announce that tonight, Beth? No? Okay, so we'll reintroduce a new public hearing next regular meeting and then, but also just folks, you all have the documentation from the LRAP, all of the information, and it'll give you an extra month almost to review that. Hopefully, if you have questions or concerns about it, those can be submitted that we can address those, such that it can be, adopted pretty easily.
I do have a question about that plan. It has to do with including a harbor master, hiring a harbor master and including that in the plan. I mean, I understand basically what that is supposed to do, but why was that included in this plan, Alicia?
It's part of the oversight of the actual harbor management law. It's been a little while since I looked at that section of the plan, and I'd be happy to look deeper into it and provide a more comprehensive response to you.
So when I went back through and looked at, you had one of the attachments in the documents was like a Google Slides presentation.
Sure.
I don't have it in front of me, unfortunately, but the language there said, as it pertains to hiring a harbor master, I think the language said, hiring harbor master may, I can't remember the exact, I should just bring it up while I'm talking here instead of trying to remember it. Not may, it says may, not shall, and I may come through as a vote through the council or something like that. And I think it should be reworded to say shall.
And just So the entire council knows this has been reviewed by Department of State and aligns with all the requirements put forth by the Department of State for such a program to be approved by the Department of State. So changes of wording such as that is very limited to us if the plan is to be considered still approved and allowed to move forward for adoption by Department of State.
What does adopting that accomplish for us as a city? Does it open up grant opportunities? I'm opening up the document right now, it's taking forever on my phone. I mean, I understand, I would say 90% of the document, and that one part of it, I don't understand why it's included, the harbor
For
master.
the harbor master?
Yeah.
Okay, and I can look deeper into that. I mean, it's definitely an enforcement component for the harbor management law. I don't have a visual on exactly where that is located and the background of why, but I do know that that would be to ensure an enforcement piece. And then I assume that there is a certain amount of flexibility on who the harbor master can be. But I want to dive into that and look further for you.
The document won't load on my phone. It's the language, not shall, but the language says may. So it sounds as though council doesn't need to be involved in the approval. That's my concern. So I'll take another look when I'm home and email you what I'm talking about. And I do have the plan at home, and I'll take another look at it, but I'm afraid I can't access it right now. But that was just something that I was wondering about, and I don't like that language, because I think any hiring of a position should come through council, not may. Language is incredibly important, so I'm gonna bring that up now.
Okay,
Okay. And if I can locate it, exactly what I'm talking about, I'll let you know.
okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I had a couple of questions about the LRAP document also. I do not want answers now because we're starting to run short of time. Anyway, it probably needs a more in-depth answer. I reviewed the LRAP planning portion of it. I saw it as three portions really. There was that part of it, pretty good with that. That was the study. What could be done, what maybe should be done, whatever. But then there's this other part of it that has to do with zoning, and I don't need an answer right here and now, but was there any changes? Is that just reiterating present zoning, or is there actually some changes in there? Don't need like a big answer. I'm gonna ask for a big answer, but not right now.
Are you
There
specifically
was-
speaking to the appendix?
There was,
on
there was large sections, I looked to me like almost all of the zoning law in there, and was it just being repeated, this is our present zoning law, or were there some changes in?
zoning? There is an appendix included
Yes,
that
that's what I'm
shows
talking
what the
about.
current zoning is, but there's additional appendices for the proposed waterfront revitalization area, which would be updated, that is a proposed update
So there
to
are
the
changes in
zoning
there.
for the overlay district.
Yeah, because-
Proposed changes to the overlay.
Well, that's what we'd be voting on, right? Changes. So that's all included.
Would those zoning changes be included? You're asking, are those
Is it
zoning
part of
changes
the-
included in the
the
approval
study?
of the plan?
The little plan.
So does it change the zone? If we adopt it,
For
does it
that,
change the
for
zone?
that overlay only.
Okay, because that's, the reason I'm asking that is very tedious to look, this is the present zoning law, where are the changes? I would, be requesting where the changes are, because honestly, it takes quite a while to do that. You would know, I would have to look and find them. The other one is that, the section on the harbor enforcement. And I thought there was a lot of good ideas in there. Realistically, would we have the manpower or the wherewithal to even enforce any of those things? To me, that's a separate issue from approving LRAP itself. I really was thinking that it should be like 3 separate things to be going into. Zoning changes is making it all one piece. I don't think that the main document is good. And I will have no problem voting on that. On any zoning changes, those can be problematic. I don't know. I would want to take a good look at them. And I would also want to take a good look at what we're proposing to do with harder enforcement with the bolts and various things. You know, are we getting into something, I don't want to burden the building inspector office with something that would be very difficult to enforce. I mean, you start saying we're gonna, well, anyway, I don't want to get into all the depth of it, but I would have some questions on that also.
I mean, like, it sounds like there's, I mean, like, yes, it's a hefty document, and it's been worked on for several years now.
Since 2016.
Yeah, so there's been some work put into it, so is it, so where we're at now is we are waiting another 2 weeks to announce another public hearing, which is gonna then last for another 2 weeks before we actually have the public hearing. And at that point, are we looking at the approval of the LRAP or the adoption of the LRAP at that point? Okay, so we have a month. Would it be beneficial to, maybe 3 weeks from now to hold a very, like, just one meeting with the council to talk about and review the LRAP? So that all of these details can get sorted out.
Yeah, I think that would be beneficial.
Would that
Myself,
be
I don't know
okay?
how anyone else feels.
But then the
If
question,
there's changes, that
and again, like, that's where we're gonna run into some issues or concerns, because if the council then comes back and says, well, no, we need to change this entire thing, then what is that
It's
option?
gotta go back to the state.
And then what?
At least another 60-day review of the state attorney.
I mean, any alternative, what about specific counselors emailing questions in the near term? And likely those questions will be answered fully satisfactory, will these answered?
I mean, that's the,
Does any recommended or requested change to the document require the whole thing to be resubmitted to the state?
It would depend on the level of change and the significance.
Material changes.
Exactly. So if it's a material change to the document, as Dean says, yes, it would have to go back to the state. And this, I just want to remind council that this has gone through an extensive public process, and we've had multiple workshops on it. So this is the final step before the requested vote. But I think it's important to get all of your questions out and for everybody to understand the vehicle that this document presents, and all of the possibilities and oversights.
So are we hoping for an April 8th adoption then? Final vote of adoption?
it wouldn't be the 8th, we have a meeting on the 4th, which the introduction would
I'm
be.
sorry, the 8th is a Wednesday, sorry, and then April 4th.
Yeah, April 4th would be the introduction of the public hearing. 2 weeks later, the second week, the third Thursday would be the public hearing and adoption.
Okay.
Scheduled public hearing and adoption. Sorry, 18th, April 18th. So that's just short of a month.
Well, it sounds like a good go-forward plan to forward some questions, any questions that we have to the mayor's office, and I'm not altogether sure it wouldn't be a bad idea to get together one time, but we'll see other questions.
What is the April 11th proposed special meeting for?
That is to update the council on the progress being made on the zoning code.
Zoning
change.
code, right.
Yes, and again, like, I do apologize, I know we don't wanna be inflexible on the date, but we've gone internally back and forth on when the best date would be. This is also based on a conversation I had with Councilor Moore a few weeks back on getting the current process, current updates, all the information that we've received from public on these changes, on the proposed changes, not the changes, the proposed changes, getting them in the hands of council and update the council on where things are at in that process, so that we can get some feedback, before August.
Before August would be nice.
Before August. Yes, before August. Okay. Cool. Any other questions on the items on today's agenda or reports? Pretty standard reports. Or additional reports needed, or additional questions on the reports yet?
I just have a quick question.
Please.
So tonight we're gonna be voting on the license for the farmer's market, and I want to ask John, will Saturday deliveries be canceled again? Because that seems to make things very much better for the season.
Yes, they will be.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
I have a question that is not connected to anything on the agenda. It's not point of department head, it's actually region.
Yeah.
When we receive bills for billable hours by the attorneys, by our attorney, our labor attorney.
Yep.
And when we have to go through and sign the bills, I noticed that there are things on there that deal with personnel issues.
Yes.
That I'm reading the shorthand notes on the bill that gives something kind of brief, but I would like to have memo updates explaining what the personnel issues are, since we have to pay for them. We have to pay the bill to the attorney, and I'm not aware of what I'm paying for. So I don't know how the rest of the other council feels about that, but I would like to have some internal memos when there are some personnel issues that require getting our labor attorney involved, and some of these look like, grievances, discipline, things like that. I would like to have more information before going forward and signing for a bill. I don't know how everybody else feels about that, but we sign off, but I don't really know what's going on internally in these departments where we're paying for that. So that is a request that I have. I don't know how the rest of the council feels, but.
Are there privacy issues involved?
Generally, personnel issues are and again, I don't want to say this to sound inflexible or to say that I don't want to say this to sound inflexible. Personnel issues are an executive branch of this government. Yes, the responsibility of the legislative branch is to approve those bills. I don't mind looking to see what's appropriate to share and what's not appropriate to share. Some of these are personnel issues, which are private. Oftentimes we do have executive sessions to talk about personnel issues, so no issue with that. Let me confer and then see what's appropriate to share and what's not appropriate to share.
So.
But again, I understand, you're being asked to approve a bill that you don't know what you're approving, which is understandable that you would want to know what we're spending money on.
And to follow up exactly what you just said about personnel issues being primarily your role, but if there are personnel issues that we should know about as part of employment history for individuals who might be eligible for future promotions or appointments or so forth, and we have to vote on appointments. And these are things that I would like to know when we are considering future action on employees.
Specific to what, if we have a problematic employee and we're trying to promote them at the same time?
No, not at the same time. I'm saying at some point.
Yeah.
It's just, and when there's movement within departments, and then if we have to vote on anything, I think it's important for us to have that information. We understand confidentiality, just as much as your office does, and I think that we should have access to that information.
Isn't that what department heads are supposed to do? They're supposed to be in charge of their employees, so.
If we're paying the bills. And we should know what we're paying for. I have, if we still have time, give me a couple minutes. The solar eclipse event. The big deal. Are you gonna have any way of, how to ask this? Is it completely open event, or are you gonna have any way of knowing how many people are gonna be there ahead of time? Or how are you gonna manage, or how's the city gonna manage? And I don't even know if this is something you can answer, manage the crowds, and yeah, I'm sure everybody knows that law enforcement throughout all of New York State is on high alert because of this event. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
We're definitely having conversations, my office with PD and fire and public works to create a plan to manage the influx of people that we're expecting for the event. So our event is free and it's open to everybody, and we're gonna have personnel on site to assist with parking so that doesn't become, crazy in any way. We've done some things in the way that we've laid out the event to encourage folks to come early and stay late so that we don't have like a mass exodus all happening at the exact same time at the very end. We're working with Clinton County Health Department just to make sure that we're abiding by, laws that have to do with mass gatherings. It's gonna be hard to tell ahead of time exactly how many people are gonna show up. There's about 1,000 people on Facebook that have RSVP'd, and that's kind of our current metric right now, but we have sometimes 4,000 people RSVP for the 4th of July, celebrations for context. So I suspect we'll get a lot of unaccounted for traffic because the beach is right off the ferry and the highway, and people will be looking for a spot. So
it's gonna be a wide open spot and have that beautiful lakefront.
yeah, and it's such an opportunity for us to show this incredible resource that we have and really show it off, and hopefully encourage people to come back and visit. But in terms of logistics and planning, yeah, we're definitely going to be in close coordination with PD and emergency services. And then just some preemptive messaging that's going to be going out. We're working in coordination with the Chamber of Commerce to do press releases that are encouraging people to, plan ahead, maybe reduce travel time that day. The roads are going to be busy. Just plan for that. Be patient, and just recognize that we're going to see a lot more traffic than we're used to here in Plattsburgh, and to plan accordingly. So just trying to get people prepped. Encourage businesses to take advantage of this opportunity to potentially stay open if they're not usually open at that time, because there will be such an influx of people.
So in that exit and entrance, that's a state highway, right? The road that is for the entrance of the beach?
Yeah.
I'm wondering what the traffic leaving there, it's tough to take a left if you want to come back to the city.
Yeah.
And I wondered.
That's where, we'll be working with.
Yeah,
State police has already, we've been in contact with the state, they're gonna have an officer assigned to us
oh, that's great.
to assist with that.
Oh, great, thank you.
And we've got, Public Works is gonna be putting up the variable message boards around the city as another form of just messaging and, expect delays, plan ahead, just trying to get the message out in many different ways to people, so.
And there'll be music and food trucks and.
Yeah.
That's
Big
great.
telescope.
Great big telescope. Oh, it's so cool. Yeah, thank you.
It is 5:30, so we'll take a motion to adjourn this work session. A motion by Councilor Gibbs, second by Councilor Avery. All in